Call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. I call this meeting in the Northwest Independent School District to order. And let the record show that a quorum of board members is present and this meeting has been duly called and that the notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551. We will now adjourn into executive session at 6:01. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our board meeting tonight. We're going to start tonight with the open our public hearing to discuss the 2017-2018 application for federally funded programs. Dr. Warren?
Board, in your packet on beginning on page 5 in your packet is the presentation that Dr. Alexander has put together for you. This is a hearing that we hold every year for our federal programs. Dr. Alexander?
Good evening.
Please.
All right, good evening. This year I will be here again to talk to you about our consolidated grant application. Within the consolidated grant application that I particularly manage through student services and report on publicly, we have Title 1A, which is a grant that's based on census poverty estimates, Title 1D for neglected and delinquent youth, Title 2 for teacher, principal training and recruitment, and Title 3A with ELA for language and content instruction for our limited English proficient students. And then Title 3A also has a component for immigrant. But I do not personally apply for that grant. We have such a limited number of immigrant students that we actually work with a shared service agreement through Region 11, and they handle that particular piece for us of Title 3. For this next school year, we have planned estimates that come to us from the Texas Education Agency. As you can see, they're very similar to last year. These are based upon our census and our district needs. And so those numbers are our planning estimates. They will change slightly. I'm anticipating they are going up some actually this year. And so we will have a little bit more funds than this planning for the upcoming school year, but that will come out completely when I get the notice of grant award. Right now, the grant actually opened on Thursday for application. So I'm just getting into it with ESA. It is a different grant in the way that it looks from the NCLB grant. I did add at the end, although it is not part of the consolidation grant that I complete, the Perkins information, because it is a federal grant that is completed by Celine Braswell and through CTE. And those particular funds I did want you to see that were allocated for this upcoming school year in order to provide instruction and serve particular needs with the special education population and any gender needs that may need to be met through CTE. For the upcoming school year, our title campuses for school-wide system of supports have not changed as far as the 7 campuses that we will serve, but they have changed in ranking order. So in order to do that, we look at the snapshot report of the percentage of students with free and reduced lunch on campuses, and that ranking is how we justify the use of our Title 1A campuses and develop our school-wide systems of supports. I have provided there, as you can see, that the district overall average is 18.1, and then the rest of those campuses there are in ranking order. In order to provide funds for those campuses, the campus with the highest need gets the highest amount of funds. On May 17th, we held an advisory planning meeting in which each of the Title I campuses were notified, and they came with 3 to 5 team members, and we had the opportunity to really dig in and review their campus data, district data, specialized sub-pop data, and they looked at their previous year, the 16-17 school year campus improvement plan, and how they had performed, and started working on a new comprehensive needs assessment for the 17-18 school year. In addition, they completed the district parent involvement policy, which will be, it's housed inside your student code of conduct and handbook. So then we have a campus policy, parent involvement policy, they each completed, and a school parent compact that each campus completed. We do have a new requirement this year through ESSA, and through ESSA we will have, you have to develop 3 to 5 SMART goals. The grant will be measured on performance for the first time for us, and so we were encouraged to choose 3 to 5 goals as a group, and so we did work on that as well. At the end of the year, when we close the grant, I will be required to send TEA the data on those particular goals. So for the upcoming school year, for proposed expenditures, I did kind of break it down differently than I had in the past in putting them all encompassed together, just to show you what each campus had proposed, and whether it was an addition of support with an increase of funds, a continuation. Each, for the Title I Part A grant, it is a requirement that there are certain set-asides and withholdings for each of these campuses to have to serve their homeless population, as well as parent engagement activities. And so those go without saying for each campus, regardless of the supports that they chose. Those will be provided. There will be funds set aside just for those activities. Prairie View will have the addition of a CIT and continue the utilization of a Title I paraprofessional and a second STAR teacher. Seven Hills will continue with CIT, second STAR teacher, community and school support, and ongoing additional tutoring support for both campuses. Clara Love will have the continued utilization of a second STAR teacher, and they will add an additional paraprofessional Title I support teacher and for tutoring support as well. Hatfield will continue to utilize a second STAR teacher and tutoring, and Justin will continue to utilize a second STAR teacher, CIS, and they will have tutoring support. Our 2 middle schools, Jean Pike will have continued CIT and tutoring, and Chisholm Trail has chosen to stay with their Title I teacher and tutoring support. The other programs are kind of all-encompassed, so we have our delinquent youth at Denton Creek will continue to have an instructional support position. Half of it would be paid through these funds. Extra funds for GED support, and then their supplemental materials and staff development. This last year, they did increase their staff development opportunities and really had some training come in and working with these specific groups of youth. Title II will continue to utilize as a half position for family involvement. We do have goals to increase our parents as teachers and family and community involvement in pre-K, and as you know, we have started our new tuition-based pre-K, so we will further utilize some of these supports to train our teachers with this new push for early childhood in those areas. And then continued district support. This can be utilized throughout the district for specific groups of students as needed to support the district improvement plan for teacher training. And Title III, we will continue to have an ELL district support teacher. We have some funds for extra bilingual tutoring support this year and materials in Language Academy. Back to those SMART goals before we end. As a group, we really reviewed what the purpose of the consolidated grant is for, and it meets the need of Priority Goal 3 perfectly. For those student groups, that's what these funds are expended for directly. So we looked at 90% of all students K through 3 to make a growth in reading measured by DRA, the 80% of economically disadvantaged in at least one pre-AP, and of course the passing rate to increase to 90% of our 8th grade reading scores of economically disadvantaged. Any questions? Okay. All right.
Board members, this is a hearing, so have an opportunity. I do have a question for you, Dr. Alexander. Okay. How long does it take you to write typically a grant? I know it probably varies from grant to grant. Or do I really want to know that?
How to write it? It's a formula grant, and so of course TEA has it very specific how you fill it out. But your data collection starts at the beginning of the year and following through all year long. And so when we get through with these advisory meetings that I'm talking about, it's the accumulation of all the data throughout the year and what their plan is for this next year and what our numbers are. Then you fill out your information in the grant. So it takes The data collection, a while. The grant itself takes about a week and a half, a week. I don't know this year. That was in CLB. We have a new ESSA grant, and it doesn't look the same, and so it's new for all of us. And but about that long. It's the monitoring piece that's ongoing.
What percent of needs, in other words, if you had an unlimited checkbook to take care of these needs, how much larger would it have to be? Or is that?
How much larger?
Yes.
That's a dangerous question.
It's a dangerous question.
Are you giving me the checkbook?
Yeah, I know. I saw.
You know, I could say this. I have, if you're looking at above the district average, there are 5 more campuses. They go from 20% to approximately 23%. So that cutoff was that 26 because it stays. But if you still looked at those 5 campuses, because they're above the district average, I think that's a fair way to look at any campus above the district average. But we do look at ways to provide compensatory education funds to continue to support those 5 campuses that may not otherwise be in the Title I component for school-wide supports.
Okay. We'll open it up to the audience. If any of the audiences has any input or questions for this particular item. Nobody else?
All right. Thank you.
Job. Very good job.
Close the hearing. Thank you, Dr. Alexander. Moving on to item number 5, we're going to reconvene the regular meeting, and we would rise for the invocation and pledge. Dr. Warren?
All right, welcome everyone. Glad you're here for our first summer meeting. If you feel comfortable doing so, please pray with me. Our dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day, and Lord, just thank you for allowing us to be part of such a fantastic school district. Lord, we ask you to be with our board members tonight. Lord, we ask you to be with all of us tonight as we go through the meeting and make sure we all safely return home. And Lord, more than anything else, we just ask you to provide your love, your guidance, and your protection to our children. It's in your name we pray. Amen. All right, board, audience, we have 2 very special guests here. Bridget Alley. Bridget, wave to everybody.
Hello.
And and Natalie Mendoza, wave to everybody. Monica, we know you. Monica Valente is our academy facilitator at the Byron Nelson High School Biomedical Academy, and these used to be some of her 2 very best students. These are old Bobcats. These are ex-Bobcats, and they agreed to come back to do our pledges. Monica, what do you think about these 2?
These students I've had for the last 4 years, and they really realized the opportunity they had being in the academy. They really, from freshman year, took it and built it to what it's been. And so I'm really proud of them. This is the second group of seniors graduating with our new program, so we're excited for their new adventures. They're pursuing dermatology and neurology.
So Natalie, all right, everybody listen to this. Natalie is going to be a major in biology at UT Dallas, correct?
Yes.
Full ride. Outstanding. And Bridget is going to be UT Austin, right?
Yes.
Almost a $50,000 scholarship to go to UT Austin. Great job, ladies. We're very proud of you. Very proud of you. All right. So, American flag, Texas flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor
the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, let's stay right there. We've got a couple of presents for you. Thank you, ladies.
Moving down to item number 7, recognitions. Dr. Warren?
Board, we have a couple of really, really exciting recognitions tonight. So, Mrs. Coughlin, please.
Yes, good evening, Dr. Warren and President Schluter. If you can join us down at the front, please. I'd first like to ask our Director of Counseling, Jamie Farber, and Northwest High School Associate Principal, Natalie Arnold, to come to the front as we recognize Northwest High School Counselor, Shanika Davis. You can join us at the front, Shanika. Ms. Davis has received an award this spring for the 2017 Sponsor of the Year for the UNT G-Force program. This is a program typically 5 to 7 college students who assist our high school students for approximately 3 hours per week with college applications, SAT and ACT registrations, and more. She was selected from program sponsors from 16 different high schools. And I just want to share there was a survey that senior students completed through Naviance, and about 20 of those students said she was the most helpful part of their high school experience.
Awesome.
All right, and next I'd like to ask Dave Edstrom to come to the front, as well as we have members from our Northwest Education Foundation board. If you guys could come up to the front as well.
Board members, all come down too, please. We'd like to get a picture.
So tonight we are recognizing Mr. Edstrom for his leadership and service to Northwest ISD and the Education Foundation as a member of the Education Foundation Board of Directors. Dave has volunteered in Northwest ISD for more than 25 years, an advocate, ambassador, and I just learned this, even a crossing guard for the town of Trophy Club, I think one of the first. You might say he's one of NISD's biggest fans. He's been involved in most of the committees and organizations in our school district and has had 2 children graduate from Northwest High School. He has served on the NEF board for 9 years, 3 3-year terms. He's extremely passionate about the school district and the Education Foundation. So thank you so much for all you have done, and we appreciate you, and we plan to continue to ask you to help us in the future. No. That's right. All right. All right, and this concludes our recognitions this evening.
Moving down to item 8, public participation, and there is none. Moving down to item number 9, which is the consent agenda, and I believe we're going to pull item G for further discussion. We'll move that to item number 12. Is there any other item on there that anyone has concern with? Okay, I will accept a motion for the consent agenda. Mr. Sproles?
I move to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
A motion has been made by Mr. Sproles, seconded by Mr. Fuller, to approve the consent agenda as submitted. All those in favor? With the exclusion of item G. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, board
members. Moving on to discussion action items, naming of the Medlin Middle School principal. Dr. Warren?
Board, we've talked about Dr. Eric Drury is moving to central office this coming school year as one of our HR directors. He's done a phenomenal job leading Medlin for the last 9 years. We've had a hiring committee working on this for about the last month. Candidates have gone through various different renditions of those interviews and ended with me on Thursday. Had a great group of candidates interested in leading Medlin, but I am very proud to present the name of Paige Cantrell. Not yet. Not yet. Paige Cantrell as the new principal of Medlin. Paige is currently the assistant with Medlin. She's a phenomenal educator, and we truly feel that she's ready for the principalship, and we think she's going to do a phenomenal job leading Medlin. That is our recommendation, board.
Board members?
Mr. President?
Ms. Kopp?
I move that we name Paige Cantrell as the principal of Medlin Middle School as recommended by the administration.
A motion has been made by Ms. Kopp, seconded by Mr. Fuller. Name Paige Cantrell as the principal of the Medlin Middle School as recommended by the administration. Any further discussion on this item? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. That's probably the most popular vote we've ever taken. Feels good to get it right. 10B, notice of public meeting to discuss budget and proposed tax rate. Dr. Warren?
Board, the required notice that we will need to put out in our public is begins on page 68. This is requirement to follow the Texas Education Code in the adoption of the budget and the proposed tax rate. I would recommend approval.
I move to approve the notice of public meeting to discuss budget and proposed tax rate as recommended by the administration.
Okay.
A motion has been made by Mr. Sproles, seconded by Dr. Simpson for the motion as read. Any discussion on this item?
Mr. Graswich, any comments on this item?
Nope. They haven't answered any questions. You're going to need a comment. I can give you one, though. And I think on the very bottom, the most interesting piece of information is the average market value of residences last year was $248,000. It's now $274,000.
Wow.
Not that that's surprised anybody, but who's received their appraisal notice. But still, it's a very significant jump in the value of homes.
That's awesome. That's a lifesaver.
Yep.
All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you. Item number 10C, Northwest Education Foundation Memorandum of Understanding. Dr. Warren.
Board, as you know, we are restructuring the leadership of our Northwest Educational Foundation. We're very proud to partner with the NEF board, and you saw several board members here tonight to honor Dave. In doing so, we need a new memorandum of understanding, and Emily, who is going to be the new executive director of the foundation, and Christy Hobbs, our in-house attorney, they have been working very hard in crafting this MOU. We would like to present this to you tonight. It will also be presented to the NEF board in a coming meeting for them, and we would like to have this, with your permission, to have this adopted before we leave for the summer in July. So, Mrs. Conklin, please.
Yes, just to echo what Dr. Warren's saying, this memorandum of understanding just reaffirms each side's commitments to the foundation and to the district. We're very excited about the initiatives that are taking place between the district and NEF. So this is just for discussion tonight only. So if you have any questions, happy to answer those.
Just one question, and could you, everything is new, or can you highlight what is new and what's didn't change? Or
well, actually, I believe this is a new. The whole thing is new. It's an entirely new document.
Everything is completely different. Thank you.
Now, I don't know this to be true, Dr. Simpson, but this probably mirrors what you originally started with, because the foundation started as a district. Mm-hmm. So this probably mirrors somewhat what you had then, and then when it split off. So.
Right, and that's what I was going to ask. If it's similar to what we had when we originally set up the foundation, I don't even remember how many years ago, but I would assume it would be something similar to that.
Yes.
With that, and I know in the last arrangement, when it was by itself, the different components were paid by the foundation, salaries, benefits, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And so I'm assuming the foundation will not be spending money to pay for your salary and your benefits? Are we, how is that?
It's a true partnership.
Yeah.
The foundation is going to pay half of Mrs. Conklin's. She's still going to be the executive director of communications with us, so they're going to pay half of her salary and benefits. And then the person that we're going to have, the position we're going to have that will be dedicated to the support position of the foundation, the NEF board will pay 100% of that salary. And I say salary, they're going to reimburse us for the amount of that salary.
Right. but the specialist position will be a district employee.
Okay. So, okay. All right, thanks.
So, Board, you will see this again for our meeting on the 26th. If you'll just continue to look this over, and if you have any questions that you would like to submit as we move toward adoption of this, we would be happy to address all of those by the time we meet again on the 26th, please.
Do you have do you have a date when you're going to present it to the board, the NEF board?
I actually just emailed it to them before this meeting as well, so they've seen it. I've gotten some revisions. I actually had lunch today with the president of the NEF board, and we kind of talked a little bit about it today, so he's given me some suggestions and feedback. Of course, we're open to sitting down with them again, but we do a lot of the communication through email as well.
Okay, so it won't be a sit-down meeting. You're just going to...
Probably not unless they ask for it. I'm happy to, but they seem to be doing okay with the email, just with different people's travel schedules and that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Warren, would you do me a favor and send out our original when we start the network?
Sure can. Absolutely.
We can kind of go through there with satisfy everybody's questions about the differences.
Mm-hmm.
Will there still be a NEF board after the fact?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. Yes.
Anything else? Thank you, Ms. Copeland.
Yep, absolutely.
Moving down to item number 11, reports, post-pricing information, unlimited tax refunding bond series 2017. Dr. Warren.
Board, I emailed you that, after the permission you gave us to select the timing of the sale, John, working with our bond counsel, did a fantastic job of choosing that time frame, and John is going to bring you just some information about what we were able to do with the sale. Mr. Graswich?
Of course, at the May 22nd, the Board of Trustees approved what's called a parameter order, and by that is rather than actually selling the bonds at that night, you authorize the administration under certain conditions to sell the bonds when appropriate. Well, the appropriate time was 2 days later on Wednesday, May the 24th. We went ahead and pulled the trigger and sold the bonds. This report's prepared by the senior underwriting manager, and I'll walk through it. Essentially, the sale took place with a true interest rate of 3.86%. We had projected, or rather Jeff Robert had projected, a 4.15% interest rate. At the time, I was hoping to get slightly under 4. We had a very strong number of buyers, and so the more buyers, the lower the rate, and so we were able to get it substantially under 4%. And by getting it under 4%, that essentially lowered the interest costs from $80 million to $68 million. We sold $100 million worth of bonds. And so in essence, we saved the district's taxpayers $11.5 million in interest because the interest rate was down so much. The bond maturity stayed the same at 25 years. One thing that did change was normally we can call bonds in and pay them off or refinance them with a lower interest rate at 10 years. We were able to get a 9-year call provision because the market was so strong and demand for our bonds was so great. In essence, this is just a breakout of how the bonds were structured. The cost of issuance were $300,000, underwriter's discount $400,000. We netted $100 million on the bonds. These are some of the previous elections that we've had just for history. As you can see, it's a rather routine thing with us. 2001, 2005, 2008, 2012, 2017. So we're going to be in the bond market for quite some time as we continue to finance more projects. What this does show, though, is that all the previous bond issues, of course, 2001 and 2005 were already paid off and issued out, rather. This finished out 2008, 2012, so we now have outstanding $399 million from the 2012 issue, none of which have yet been issued today. And we'll be back next year doing that and so forth and so on for year after year. As you can see from the chart, the interest rate was very favorable. We've been watching it go down for quite some time, and so that's why we went ahead and pulled the trigger in May rather than try to wait perhaps to August or something like that. So this worked out very favorably as well. This is just a listing of the people who bought the bonds. I think it's kind of interesting when you look at the green. Normally you see insurance companies buying a tremendous amount of bonds for their portfolios, but in this case it was investment managers and financial type operations as opposed to insurance companies. We did have a very small amount actually bought by the underwriters for their own personal resale to cover out is by 1.1%. And so that was good because that meant that we were getting, when we didn't have some market offers for those bonds, our underwriters stepped in and stepped up and took over those bonds so that we didn't have anything hanging out or have to pay a higher rate. Senior manager, of course, was BOK, and they generated the most investor orders. A lot of investor orders come in undesignated, and so they're typically credited initially to the BOK. All of our underwriters seem to do a good job. We'll do a more detailed review here in a little bit. Just check on the additional performance of all the underwriters. And we did add one additional underwriter for the size of this issuance, and that was Piper Joffrey. We continued to use, suddenly dropping the names. They keep changing them on me. With Raymond James and RBC Capital. Raymond James used to be Ralph Pierce and a bunch of other things. I'm sorry, RBC did. Here's the bond refundings. I want to talk briefly about those. Essentially what a refunding is let's say you sell $25 million worth of bonds for 25 years, paying $1 million a year and at 6% interest. Well, 8 years out, the interest rates drop down to half of that, 3%. So just like you'd want to refinance your home, you can do the same thing with bonds, because in essence, bonds are a mortgage loan. Not technically, but in essence. And so what we would do is you would go ahead and issue the money to pay off those bonds, and since you're doing it in year 8, you'd have to make a year 9 payment and a year 10 payment, and then you would call in all the remaining bonds, pay them off, and then the district would make payments to the refunding bond. So in essence, a refunding, it allows you to call in and pay off the principal on a previous bond issue, and now you're refinancing at a lower rate. So you dump 6% bonds and replace them in essence with 3% bonds. And once you sell them, they're all held by a trustee, so the district can't actually access those funds, unlike a regular bond issuance, in which case we get the cash and we invest the cash and spends the cash. He spends a lot of cash, but that's basically how refunding works. And of course, we've done quite a few refundings, and it's generated over $78 million in savings. As I said, this takes a team. Of course, there's the board of trustees, the administration. First Southwest is our financial advisor. McCall Parkhurst is our bond counsel. We have paying agents. We use 2 rating agencies, and then we have the underwriters that I mentioned before, as well as the underwriters council. So it's a big team that does all this, and they performed admirably for the benefit of the district's taxpayers and ultimately the benefit of the district's students. Be happy to answer any questions.
Board members? Lots of money.
Really good job by the team.
Yeah, as a taxpayer, that's great. It's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Krasowicz. Moving down to number 11B, which is Student Transportation District Effectiveness Report. Dr. Warren?
And Ms. Chandler has your yearly district effectiveness report on our transportation services. Dana, please.
Actually, I'm going to introduce Andy Burton.
Oh, Andy's going to do it. Okay.
Andy's going to do it. And we have Rafael Fajardo here from Durham. He is the region manager as well.
Good evening, Dr. Warren, members of the board. Thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to, which one did you say it was? Okay. For able to get up here and give you my transportation report for the 2016-2017 school year. Just a little FYI, we're celebrating our 100-year anniversary here at Durham School Services. We started with a 3-bus company out in the San Gabriel Valley in California. We're now, as Durham School Services, 16,300 school buses, serving more than 400 school districts in 31 states. For the past 16 years, We've actually partnered with Northwest ISD, where we started with 40 routes and 50 drivers, and today we're at about 160 routes and over 170 drivers. So quite a big difference in the last 16 years. This is basically our numbers for the last year from spring to spring. We've increased almost 1,500 students riding and about 12 routes. Some of our successes. We moved into our new transportation facility this year, and it's been a great process. We've increased our ability to service buses, increased our facilities for support staff, our break rooms, our training rooms for our drivers. We've also, Durham's partnered with the school to improve the parking lot spaces, more bus spaces, improve the security with better lighting and controlled access for our drivers. So that's been a big success for us this year. Also, our driver staffing. We've been able to achieve 100% staffing this year with 15 spare drivers. We were able to partner with John and Mark and Dana to gain access to a facility, a little-known facility up in Denton, Texas. They are actually waiting for their permanent site in Carrollton, and through many emails and phone calls, we were able to gain access to those folks, and that drastically reduced our time between applying for a test date and actually getting it. So we were outwards of a month to a month and a half of getting that testing date to about 2 weeks. So that's helped tremendously. We also partnered with a school district this year to raise our starting pay from $14.50 an hour to $15 an hour. It's a very competitive market, labor market out there, and so that was a big boost to help us get that driver staffing at 100%. Some of our other successes are our continued partnership with our community. For a few years, many years, I think, we've been partnering with the Stuff the Bus. It's a very great program. This last year, I was fortunate to be out there at Galderma, where they packed one bus and then a semi. It was pretty impressive. Just to see that much community support going to help provide supplies to our underprivileged students. So we're happy to be a part of that. The big event is also a very neat opportunity for us. Last year, I started my first year with the district. It was Northwest High School, and we had some folks from Eaton that participated. And basically, we scoop up the students and we take them out into the community where they provide service projects to the community. And this year we did it with Northwest High School and also Eaton High School. So that event is growing as well. We also get out into the community and participate in various activities out there. Just here recently, last month, we were out at the Guns and Hoses State Cook-Off event that benefits police officers and first responders. We got out there with our cornhole board and meet and greeted the community and had a good time. So we're always looking for ways to be a part of our community here at North Texas and Northwest ISD. Some of our challenges. This year, we partnered with John and Mark and Dana, and we actually increased or I don't know if increase is the word. We implemented a more stringent set of guidelines for our on-time performance. In years past, we measured to on-bell time. This year, we decided that we wanted to raise that bar, and we actually measured to scheduled arrival. So elementary, that's 20 minutes prior to bell. Middle school and high school, that's 10 minutes prior to bell. So we show an average of about 80% on time for scheduled arrival at campus. We are still showing a 98 to almost a 99% on time arrival to bell. A lot of things go into that. Some of it is traffic. I'm not sure if y'all are aware, but there is a little bit of traffic here. So traffic plays a part in that. Construction to alleviate that traffic plays a part in that. And then also just the sheer distance of our district. To get from one end of the district to the other end of the district could take upwards of an hour or more during traffic. So it does pose a challenge, and we're working daily to, find solutions to that. The other challenge is just the fast growth district. I've had the opportunity to listen to Dr. Warren and give, some information about the bond that was passed and just the sheer growth. 26,000 developable lots, I believe it is. We are an extremely fast growth district. A lot of people moving in, and it challenges us to find ways to project where they're going to hit. Templeton does a good job. Our demographer does a good job, but the minute we think we've got it, then about 3 more busloads of kids move into that area. We're looking at alternate park out facilities needed to accommodate growth. As I said, to get from our bus lot to over in Trophy Club with traffic, sometimes that could take a long time, whether it be a breakdown or whatnot. And so we're looking at that. We've actually outgrown our new facility. We've got buses that are we kind of pre-staged some over at Chisholm Trail. We do use the old high school parking lot, but we just moved into it and we've already outgrown it. The labor market will continue to be highly competitive in this area. Buc-ee's, there's several other industries that move in and they compete for the same folks that we're after. Those are continuing to be challenges for us. Our next steps, again, we're just going to continue to partner with the district to find solutions for this fast-paced growth. We want to stay up to date with the road constructions through various organizations, identify new housing developments. We get out there, try to find out where they're going to be building, when they're going to be building, and how fast. Identify opportunities for more space and strategic locations throughout the district so that we can put buses in various parts so that we can react quicker. We're going to continue to leverage technology to provide exceptional customer service and safety. One being our bus tracker application, which we've actually increased about 2,000 users this year. Our VersaTrans routing software that helps us to route around the district and make those changes happen. And then our newest technology this year is our Drive Cam, which is a very big safety thing for our drivers. It allows us to monitor their driving behavior so that we can coach and mentor those folks on how they can be the safest driver out there. We're going to continue to work with our corporate resources to identify the workforce trends to recruit and retain the best and best drivers and monitors. And then one of the new things is the state of Texas has actually come out with a third-party testing for CDL. It's been available to students or regular drivers for a little while, but now they're working it out to the CDL. We're in the process of becoming a third-party sponsor, so that'll allow us to test our own driver candidates. There's a whole list of things that we have to do, but that'll drastically reduce the amount of time, so we won't have to wait that month and a half or go to Abilene to try to find a test date for our candidates. We can actually get them trained. Takes us about 2 weeks, and then we can get them tested. So that's going to help us out tremendously. And lastly, I'd just like to end with the Durham difference, which is customer service. The foundation of customer service is on, the safety things, the maintenance, the operational procedures. That builds our foundation, and it leads up to our customer service standards, our 5 golden rules that we impress upon our drivers, and that's really where we're wanting to be. We have a saying right now, we want to strive for perfection and catch excellence. I believe Vince Lombardi is the one that said that, but that's what we strive to do right now is to strive for that perfection so we can catch the excellence. With that, take any questions that anybody might have.
I just have one question. I know last year we had an issue with crowded buses, especially like when football season ended and all the kids started riding the bus again. Did we have that issue this school year too?
A lot less. We were able to we were able to kind of anticipate that a little more. We reached out to those campuses, tried to get with those athletic sponsors and find out how many of those students would think participate. Anytime you ask it, sometimes everybody says, yeah, I'm going to ride, or no, I'm not going to ride, and then they do ride. So we did do a little bit better job, but we're still working on ways to where we can fine tune that. Yes, ma'am.
One of our goals, we've talked about this, what we do is a weekly report. When I took this thing over a couple of years ago, every week we get together, review a simple 3-page report. Page 1, staffing, because you can't get there, you don't have the drivers, and that's a huge issue. Second one is performance, and we actually look at each and every case where there is not, when they're not there by the bell time. About 80% of that is traffic, and not necessarily an accident, just traffic. And then occasionally there's some maintenance issue or a driver issue that'll show up. And then the third thing is just bullet points. But our goal to start off the next school year, we weren't particularly pleased with how we started out this last time around. It was okay. We want a lot better than okay. And so we're working very hard to make sure that we have all the drivers come back, and we have extra drivers in case some who don't come back who we might have anticipated or even told us were coming back. We'll also have our routers geared up as well, because you do the best you can, but as this is such a growing district, traffic will change dramatically on you because a new subdivision opened up and it's now dumping 200 more kids onto a road. And so the first week you anticipate there's going to be problems. You'll do the best you can, but what we're going to do this time around is gear up to where we can put everything to bed by the end of the second week. And that may include adding new routes, restructuring routes. In fact, that will include that. You can guarantee, because going back to the overcrowding is you may find some route is suddenly not generating traffic because a new campus or something happened. And then the flip side of that is some route suddenly picks up a whole bunch of extra kids. And we try to keep the ride times in this traffic congestion as low as we can, but it's difficult to say the least. So the goal for us this time around is to gear up, make the best shot possible going in, and then be ready to know that we're going to have to react and restructure and rethink what's going on based on the actual data that shows up in the first week. The other thing I wanted to mention was there's a lot of talk about staffing. We had a lot of problems at the beginning of the year and throughout the year. We could recruit people, but we couldn't get them passed through the DPS testing station to get their CDL license. They would do the courses and everything, and then they would sit there for 6 to 8 weeks waiting for a testing date, and they'd wander away. And so we're just trying to keep our surplus drivers up. We're supposed to have about a 10 or 15% surplus. And if you don't have it, you get a bad sick day, suddenly you're in some trouble. I asked Dana, I finally had what I call the Popeye principle. I had all I could stands and I couldn't stands no more. So I actually had Dana call the Speaker of the House, the Senate, and the Governor's office for the chiefs of staffs responsible for transportation committees. And the squeaky wheel got the grease, and suddenly she got chewed out by a DPS testing station, but suddenly we went to the top of the list, and we were able to resolve our staffing. So I want to give kudos to Dana for we aggressively attacked this problem for the benefit of our kids, because you got to have the drivers. And so that was a big challenge for us. Then the newest challenge is going to be the growth. Tim's already aware and thinking about the next transportation facility and where we're going to put it, probably on the west end, but we're already, as I said, outgrowing it. So those are kind of the big issues around us. But we're very concerned about overcrowding and ride times, and that's just a huge issue, especially on the west side of the district.
That was going to be my question, John. What is the earliest time a child would get on the bus, and what is the length of the ride time for our children?
Well, it's supposed to be an hour for regular and an hour and a half for academy.
That's correct. So an hour, we limit to an hour for just regular home to school, And then the academy, we extend that because we are transporting from one end of the district to the other sometimes. And so we cap that at about an hour and a half. The earliest that our students are getting on is about 6 o'clock in the morning. Excuse me. I don't believe this year we had anybody earlier than that. So it's about what time?
Yikes, that's early. And then just the general question about seat belts. I've heard quite a bit in the news about seat belts on buses, and I don't know if ours have them or not, or...
No, ma'am. Our regular home-to-school buses do not have seat belts on them. Our special needs buses are equipped with them for various programs, but currently our regular education buses do not.
I have a few questions. On the overcrowding, with my kids riding the bus, especially with my daughter, where she's got the band instrument, the athletic bag, and the school bag, I hear stories that there's 3 to a seat and there's no room to all put all that stuff, so she would beg and plead me to come pick her up from school. So, but I understand there's limits of how many kids y'all want on a bus. You don't want to fill to capacity. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. So we typically, with our home-to-school routes, we have 3 capacity-sized buses, and they're DOT regulated: a 71 passenger, a 77 passenger, and 84 passenger. Those are, those are coming from the manufacturer, DOT. That's about a 13-inch seat, so that's not big enough for me to fit in. Working with Dana, she gives us recommendations. When we start to see a bus get to about 50, we start talking, and we start looking at different things. Can we alleviate and move those kiddos to another route that may not have as many? It's not necessarily a hard and fast every time, a hard number of 50. But as soon as we do identify that we're starting to approach that, we take action and either add a route or shift those students elsewhere. There are days, unfortunately, that they catch us by surprise, and all of them decide to ride. We route for every eligible student, and so if every eligible student was to show up on any given day, we could have a very crowded bus. And sometimes they do, despite our best efforts to try to figure out, okay, football's ending, we better have a piggyback, what we call a piggyback bus over here. Sometimes they'll throw us for a loop and all decide to ride on some Friday afternoon. But
Also understand, but with the resident verification that's coming up, you'll have a better idea which students are going to take the bus instead of just guessing. Absolutely.
That's a great point. Dana and John and Mark, they work to put that into the new registration where it's actually a checkbox that they can't ignore. On the registration form, they have to decide, am I going to need transportation? That will tremendously help us to understand who's going to be riding and make better decisions and be able to react, as John was saying, be able to react a lot more quickly to different things.
Okay. And the next, on the on-time performance, for the most part, y'all park all the buses here at this bus barn?
That's correct.
Do y'all use any of the buses at the bus barn over there towards the Keller School District off of, I think it's Beach and Keller Hicks?
No, sir.
None? Okay.
No, sir.
So with the on-time performance, is it affected once the kids are starting to be picked up as far as with traffic and construction, or is it getting the bus to the kids to begin with?
It's typically, mostly it's due to once we get them picked up or once we're out on the roads. And then, 35 is a main corridor for us getting to our southern campuses.
Okay.
And so once we get on the roads, sometimes, one accident on 35 can have repercussions because then the traffic flow moves from 35 to 156 to 377 to, and it just compounds. So.
Okay. And then my last question, more to do with the technology and video access. Now, as a parent, I can't go and look at a bus while it's in motion, can I? Or so if I have an issue, if I want to just look to see what's going on, I can't do that.
No, sir. You could not look inside the bus at real time, what we would call real-time video. We don't have that capability. All of our buses are video and audio capable recording. Due to privacy laws, as a parent, you can request to view that video, and you can come to the campus, my office, the administration office, and you could view that with somebody. Okay. But you wouldn't be able to just tap into it through, like you would on some of the home security systems that we see these days. You couldn't just look in and watch the video as it's going.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I had a question regarding the training for disciplinary action. What can the bus drivers do to discipline the kids? Anything at all? And then how much training for that and safety?
The discipline portion is handled by our campuses. And so the way that works is the driver does a write-up. They bring that to the bus barn. Myself or one of the other supervisors or a member of the staff will review that write-up, make sure that it's clear, that we understand it, and then we'll submit that on to the campus. The campus is then the one that mets out the discipline per the student handbook policy and, various other things. And so that may include, hey, we need to see some video, things of that nature.
If there's an extreme safety issue, however, the bus driver will pull over.
That's correct. That's correct. And so in certain situations, the bus driver will pull over, call us on the radio, and then I'll call Dana if I need clarification on whether to dispatch, an SRO or call 911. But in most cases, we can resolve it just by, the effective student management training that we offer our drivers. And that includes monthly safety meetings in which we go over areas of driving, but also student management. There are cases, that we'll bring in drivers at our startup meeting on August 14th. We'll have a big session on student management. Every time I get a new crew of candidates, I always go in and say, hey, did y'all know that we transport students? And they're like, really? And I'm like, yes, really. So it's kind of my joke. My staff kids me about it, but I want people to know that we're not transporting boxes. We're transporting kiddos. They're our most precious cargo. These kids, if you look at the time on the bus and the time in the classroom, some of them are spending upwards of 8 hours a day or more. I get a little cranky whenever I spend 8 hours a day. But I'm not looking at you, Raf. But I get a little cranky, so I can imagine our kiddos. So, but yes, there's several opportunities that we provide for our drivers to learn how to deal with those type of issues.
Any other questions? Yes. We definitely appreciate you guys growing with us. So thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Moving on to 11C, District of Innovation Report. Dr. Warren, there he went.
Here I am. Okay. Board, as I told you on my Friday note to you, Mr. Fuller and I had a conversation about this in the fall, and I think both of us agreed that we probably needed to kind of wait and see if there were going to be any legislative action on this. We've gotten through the legislative, we've gotten through the first part of the legislative session. There's no telling what's going to happen during the special session. But I really want to start a conversation about this with you and maybe start a little research project for us to see if this is a route that we would like to go down as a district. And this is going to need to be a district decision to be able to attain a District of Innovation status. It's become very popular around the state, and I'm going to take you through just a couple of things on my PowerPoint, and then we'll just have a good talk. Not this last legislative session, but the 84th session is what created the law of the District of Innovation status, and it's to give traditional districts some more flexibility to get out from under some of the Texas Education Code mandates that some open enrollment charter schools did not have at that time. So it just kind of gives you some background on how the District of Innovation status came about. This session, there were several bills introduced regarding the District Innovation status. They really discussed trying to take away the right for districts to get out of the beginning of the start of school day because Six Flags and other recreational facilities were losing, or at least they feared they would be losing too much revenue if school districts starting the school year earlier. But nothing really got passed. There was some language that was adopted to address some loopholes about educator misconduct. That was a big issue, and it should have been for the legislative session. Just some things that we have looked at over, just as we've read through other plans, other district plans. Those are just kind of a list of some of the more popular, and I'll show you some numbers here in just a second, if a District of Innovation status process has gone through and approved by you as the board and then gone on to TEA, and what exemptions that a lot of districts are trying to stray away from, those were some of that. There are things that the legislature already adopted that we could not do. Any curriculum, the required curriculum, we cannot get out of STAR. That was one of the first things that Rob asked. But there are several things that we can't do. Quite a few, if you look at 1,200 districts around the state, almost 450 have gone through the process. Here in Region 11, 48 have gone through there, and just give you a list of our neighbors who have gone through this process of District of Innovation status. We've pulled quite a few of their plans of what they're doing. As we go through this research project together over the next month and a half, 2 months, just right here, I've got the Richardson plan, I've got the Denton plan, I've got an actual TASB District of Innovation writing form that they take you through the specifics of how to write a good plan if it's our choice to do so. Around the state, you can see that of the 450 districts who have done this, many of them have done, for them, innovation equaled starting the school year earlier, getting out of the school start date. 355 teacher certification requirements. Many of those, Celine have gone through for career technology, trying to get more folks involved in our career and technology who would be probably able to teach classes with excellence, but just don't have the certification to do so. 196 class sizes have gone out of the class sizes rather than through the waiver system. The minutes of instruction, the 90% rule, attendance rule, and even into the appraisal system. So you can see what the majority of the common exemptions are. For us to make a decision, two ways for us to start this process. After we've done the research, it either begins with you or it begins with our DEIC. My next report on this, my next introduction for this, if we want to look at this at all, will be a presentation to the DEIC when we start back in the fall. But the process would begin with a resolution from you or a petition signed with the majority of the district level advisory committee to start the District of Innovation process. We have to hold a public hearing to consider developing an innovation plan to see if there's any input our taxpayers, our constituents, and our stakeholders would like to have on this proposed plan. And then after that hearing is conducted, you have 30 days to actually decide to formally go through the process of making the plan. Then you appoint a committee who develops the plan. The plan must be posted online for 30 days for full transparency. We must notify our Commissioner of Education that our intent to plan to vote on this plan. And the District Advisory Committee also holds meeting and passes the plan, and it must be by the majority vote. The District Advisory Committee must contain the specific amount of teachers, staff, parents. And then the final board votes by 2/3 majority on the final vote for the plan, and then notifies the commissioner for approval. So that is a plan, and no plan you cannot request a plan to go beyond 5 years if you decide to do this. So there are things that we need to really delve into. There's a lot of things on there that could possibly help us as a school district to get out from under some of the restrictions that are placed on us. Some of these, we agree, don't really sound as innovative as we were doing right now. I think we're a very innovative district anyway. So I would just like, I would like your attitudes now about it. I would like us to kind of study it throughout the summer, looking at different plans, looking at different avenues that other districts have done, waiting to see if the legislature makes any more changes through the month of July during their special session, and then maybe coming together in the fall and really having a good discussion about that to see, and you guiding me and telling me if this is in our future and we think that there's some value. And that's the most important thing. If we go through this process, will it add value to what we're doing right now? So that is, I want to have a discussion. I want to continue to have a discussion. I wanted you to have the preliminary information on how to and who has done it. And again, I'm going to provide you throughout the summer with more plans. I'm going to make you copies of, again, the process, the TASB document, the specific plans on how to write it is very interesting, and it gives you some potholes that they've looked into and some things to avoid, and how this affects your policy, what kind of local policy decisions you would have to make to change our policy to reflect what those the district innovation plan would hold. So I think it'll be a really good process for us to study to see if it's in our future. So I would be happy to entertain any questions right now about that.
I think whenever I first started reading more about it, and I brought it up to the former superintendent, I think you remember her, she had mentioned at that time that we would definitely want to wait because that may not be something the same direction that Ryder would want to go. So we agreed to do that, and then that's whenever, I think in our first meeting, I threw it on his lap and said, when are we going to do it? But I think, whenever you start looking at the plans from other districts, there are some, it's not very innovative. It's just, okay, we're going to start a week earlier. But then there's some that, really when you think about what they are doing and why they're doing it, and that's why I really like what Denton has done with their website, and we have a link in our packet on that. They're actually putting what they're doing, but they're also putting their rationale. And I like that approach because it's why are they doing what they're doing? I mean, one of the things is the site-based decision making. Where the campus is making some of the decisions and it's decentralizing, where the campus is deciding what they want to do in some areas, as well as the 90% mastery versus just seat time, or I guess 90% seat time versus mastery. That arbitrary number, I mean, we've already gone away from it with A through F on the elementary for college readiness. So I appreciate you bringing it to us. I definitely want to continue with the discussion. Just because we enter into it and we possibly become one doesn't mean that we have to jump on board and take every single one of them. But I would like to have that discussion as we go through, the next few months and see if this is something that, we think could work and really benefit the students of the district.
And I think Mel just made a great point in that. I think some of the districts at the very beginning just got on board and just checked every box and didn't have the right rationale and really study how this would make us better. And so I think that would be a really good process when we start talking to the DEIC as we talk among ourselves to really kind of dig into what will be best to help us if there are things that we can do to make it ours, truly.
When it comes to the start dates, school start dates, they're starting early, but are they finishing early as well, or?
That is, one of the things that, Steve, that we struggle with every year as Stephanie puts together the calendar, some of the things we struggle with, because we are relegated basically the last starting school year, the last week of August, she always struggles with trying to get the instructional days matched up between fall semester and spring semester. You always have more instructional days in the spring than you do the fall. Now, if you take into consideration the testing days, they sort of even out, but a lot of districts are asking for that limited test so you can even out instructional days so that especially courses that are semester courses can have equal amount of that. And plus, it's a big thing to be able to finish, at the end of May rather than going into June. That's some of the things that some of the districts who wrote their plans were important to them and their parents.
And what about like the minutes of instruction, to increase or decrease, or what are the other districts? What's the common trend out there?
That I'll have to say. That I'll have to find out. They talked. There was one article that I read that there's some campuses were struggling to meet the minutes requirements. Some weren't. So they were using the district innovative status to alter that.
Okay.
But we're going to have to really dig down more into this.
So I guess the last question is, it's probably not, but do we have a wish list of what we would like to do?
Not even close yet. Okay. Again, I want to involve you. I want to involve our teachers and our staff and our parents on DEIC, and really, again, not really just being a catch-all. This being a very specific plan that would help us in the long run.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Since this is so new, there probably is very limited data out there in terms of how it has improved districts. Is that correct?
Right.
Benton is only starting theirs this year.
It's a pretty good long process to get everything done, and so the people are just cranking it up.
It's a nice name.
It is. Yeah. It's just some of the selections they made are not the most innovative.
So I guess, Dr. Warren, what I'm hearing is it's something we want to pursue to look at?
To look at. What I would like to do is I would like to continue to have staff to study this, to provide you with more materials for us all to study, to read, to look at other plans. And then as we come together as an administrative staff, would recommend some things. There might be some things that you really think would drive us forward. There's some things that the DEIC may think would drive us forward, and it's kind of all coming together to see if that process is worth the effort.
Sound like a plan.
Thank you.
Anything else before we move on? No. Moving down to 11D, School Health Advisory Council Annual Report. Dr. Warren.
Mr. Johnson.
Dr. Warren, members of the board, thanks for having me this evening. I'll be brief. Apparently there's a basketball game tonight. Sixth grade summer league I'm talking about. My wife's coaching, so it's in our best interest that I get out of here quickly. If you know her, you'll understand. This is our annual state-mandated SHAC report. We have a great group that we've been working with this year, and mission of the SHAC committee is just to help out with the student health and make recommendations for our health programs and PE programs throughout the school district. There's just the law. The state's our mandated meeting right there. And we currently have 20 members, 13 are community members representing various schools, and we have 7 district employees. And this is a number that we continue to grow and continue to look to bring in new members every year. Our goal next year is to have at least one member from every single building within NISD. Our leadership, our newly elected leadership for this next school year, this lady's probably very familiar to you. She's been here for several different meetings. Ms. Heather Harrison, we're thinking exactly how long that she's been with us. I think it's 4 years now. She's been our committee chair. She does a fantastic job. She's very involved in the school district, and she is just a treat to have working with us. Miss Mandy Forbes, she is our vice chair. This is her second year with us at NISD. She's with Texas Health. She's one that has helped put together some of our health lessons that we have some nurses come in, and which I'll get to in just a second, but she kind of organizes all of that for us. She's a very valuable member and great to have with us. And then our new member for our secretary is Miss Janine Walls. She's with Cook Children's Healthcare System, and she is an absolute wealth of information for us, and we look forward to working with her this year. Our activities this year, I'm sure most of you are familiar with our reindeer romp. This next year will be our 10th year, and it continues to grow to the point to where we had to move it to the airport, we had a great turnout, even with the weather being in the high 20s, low 30s, and great turnout anytime you change a venue after such a long time at one place. You never know what's going to happen. We had over 3,500 people sign up. Other activities we had, like mentioned before, our guest speakers in first aid and summer safety that we did in the spring, and we did a nutrition class from our Texas Health ladies that came out and met with our health kids talking about nutrition right before the Christmas break. SHAC has also helped support our 6th grade and elementary running clubs, which we had over 2,000 kids involved with in the elementaries and close to 300 with our 6th grade running clubs that competed during our cross-country meets. Our Go Red Week, in supporting the American Heart Association, dealing with Jump Rope for Heart, Hoops for Heart, and different activities, raising over $70,000 through NISD for the American Heart Association. They also set up our elementary nutrition guidelines that can be found on the elementary websites, essentially just some basic outlines of parties and different things, snacks that can replace, cupcakes and different things like that. So you can find that on all the web pages. They also put together the elementary bad weather guidelines. Essentially, it's just when and when not to go outside. It's pretty extensive. It's very well written, and that's another thing that the SHAC committee went through and put together. We're also in the early stages of putting together some infection control guidelines for the classrooms, just some basic things on how to keep from spreading germs and cleaning up and just basic health guidelines. This was our first year also. We initiated the Kids Teaching Kids 21-Day Challenge. We partnered up with, I think it was 13 or 14 other school districts in the DFW area, along with NBC5, Kroger, Medical City. Kroger donated $500 for our top performing school, which was Lakeview Elementary, and then the athletic department kicked in $300 for the second place winner and $200 for the third place winner, and all that money went to equipment for our elementary PE programs. And so that was a great turnout. We had over 2,000 kids participate in that one as well for the first time, dealing with nutrition. And in our CTE program at Byron Nelson High School helped put together a cookbook that all the kids got to take home, and that went across the DFW area. Future activities we're looking at coming up, a lot of it's just continuation. Like I said, the 10th anniversary coming up for our reindeer romp is a very big deal for us. We will be moving our lecture series that we talked about through Texas Health from the health and safety, nutrition, all of that from health classes into the 6th grade PE classes. We can reach more kids that way. And then also finalizing and wrapping up our infection control guidelines, and then continuation of our run clubs, our partnership with the American Heart Association, and then we're looking into some community ideas dealing with mental health and social media activities. And then, like I mentioned before, our membership goals to try to make sure that we have at least one participant from every building across NISD. Meeting dates have been set from last year to this year. We are required by the state to have 4 regular. We have 5, so everything's ready to go on that for next year. And then something, again, that we're pretty proud of was $17,260 raised for the elementary PE programs across the district through the Reindeer Romp and through the help of Fieldhouse Fitness Center in Justin. The Scribner family does a great job helping us out and putting all that together. And then all of our information can be found on the NISD Athletic webpage. All of our dates, board meeting minutes, and other helpful information dealing with student health can all be found there as well. Any questions?
George does an excellent job with the SHAC board. He really does. Now, George, I do understand that there's going to be a request from certain district administrators that the reindeer romp include a half-K race next year. Is that
a half-K? We can make that happen.
Thank you, George.
It's not a problem. It's not a problem. I got the route already ready to go. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Lukenhouse. Get out of here. Item number 12, considering the items removed from the consent agenda. We did remove number 9G, which was CSP number B017-019-05-031, Northwest I-2 Elementary School number 18. Dr. Warren.
Board, I believe there's some specific questions about the recommendation of the administration on the consent agenda item for 18. And Tim, we go through a very precise process of grading the proposals that come in. I believe 13 different vendors applied for the job for this out of more than probably 200 that were invited to do so. And Tim went through the process, and his crew went through the process of grading those out to come up with a recommendation of Balfour Beatty. And I would just like him to provide some more information about the grading process and how the companies did grade out on this process.
Absolutely.
Mr. McClure?
Absolutely. So yes, we did start off with 13. However, it is a two-step process. So going back in time in history, 1995 is when legislation allowed us to move to a different procurement method. Prior to that, it was low bid only. If you remember, all except for one of you saw a presentation from me in the last year about the ways that we procure projects for construction. In this particular method, we had done a CSP, competitive sealed proposal, which weights out several different factors. Half of that weighting is the price. So you do not always get the low bid, but you get the overall best value based on a weighting of half of it being for the price. And then we have 8 other key items that have weightings as well, which is schedule, key project personnel, subcontractors list, meaning who they're bringing to the table with them as the general contractor, their project experience, their financial background, any claims and suits, a quality control program, and as well as their reference checks from other school districts. As we went forward with a two-step process, which is the first step is they were required to submit their contract amount, their bid amount on day one. And then after that, we give them a day, and this time it fell over a weekend, so they actually had a weekend before they submitted part 2, which is the actual qualification step. The logical reasoning in doing that, you say, well, why don't you submit both 1 and 2 on the same time? Because we're asking for some pretty in-depth information on their subcontract teams, that we really want to know who it is that's delivering the work, not just the general contractor, but what other subcontract teams are on that bid. If you've ever been involved in a bidding process, some of those subcontractors hold their numbers till the last minute. And so then to require them to submit resumes and personnel portfolios on their teams when they don't even know if they're getting a bid from a subcontractor, that's why we separate that time and give them at least a day so that they get the numbers in. Then they can go back and prepare their list of what subcontractors they're proposing. That's important to know because that's part of what reduces our count. When you get the bids in on day 1 and you have 13, and then day 2 comes, which was, like I said, a couple days later, and you only get half those submitting part 2, most of that's reasoning is because maybe they were the high bidder or the second highest bidder or the third highest bidder, and they decide, well, I'm not going to put forth the effort. I've got to make up 10, 11, 12 spots to get to number 1, and even though my qualifications are great, they're not going to make up the difference on that 50 points weighted on the value for the price. So when you get down to it and you see that we actually had 7 evaluations that we did there that you see, and after we weighted with a team of 4, went through and weighted and we performed the references, the weighting came back with the ranking as you saw on your agenda there. Any questions on the process or where we ended up at that I can further answer? Bless you.
Tim, did we get any feedback from the contractors that our process was too stringent, or was there everybody agreed to it going into the process?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would say, and certainly we have one in the audience, but I would say most of our general contractors, when we visited with them and have done post-analysis of our bid processes, and in my career, they prefer the 2-step method versus the 1-step method where you're submitting all that once. Once again, it's up to us as the district to create those qualifications and those criteria. We don't have to request for subcontractors, but when they're doing a large portion of your work, we really want to know what team's coming forward. And in order to do that and do that right, that's why we go to the 2-step. Zach, you can nod your head if y'all like 1-step better than 2-step or 2-step better than 1, but Two-step is usually the preferred method in the industry right now if you're delivering CSP. CM at risk, which is our other delivery method that we use here in the district as well, is a different methodology, but that wasn't this bid.
And I appreciate knowing the criteria, the half that goes to the total bid and then the other criteria. That's really helpful.
Yes, ma'am.
That helps to communicate, when there are questions. My question would be then, so when you get to, you're hitting 90 points or 90%, I guess the score goes to 100, but
yes.
You're within that 90 to 100. How do you kind of weigh through that? Is that subjective on the other half, or are there points for each of these areas?
There's points for each of the areas. So, schedule is 15 points. Key project personnel is 8. Subcontractors is 5. Project experience is 8. Financial background is 5. Claims and suits is 2. Quality control program 2. And then project references is 5. And that's all listed for them in the RFQ. So they know that going in, what the weightings of those criteria are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on this item?
Board, we would recommend approval.
Mr. President, I would move to approve, and I'll just read the number. Is that correct?
Sure.
CSP number B0170019-05031, Northwest ISD Elementary 18.
A motion has been made by Dr. Simpson, seconded by Mr. Wright, to approve the motion as read. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? Carries 7-0. Thank you. Moves us down to Board of Presidents' report. It's going to be brief tonight. SLI conference is June 22nd through the 24th. I assume that everybody that's going has already signed up. It's going to be at the Omni Hotel. There's an invitation for some groceries, I think, by one of our vendors there too. If you choose to accept, please let Jennifer know. Also, Superintendent's Evaluation Goals and Objectives. We should get some information by the 15th of June, and I will immediately send that out for you guys to evaluate, provide comments back to me in a very short time frame. We'd like to at least talk to them at our next board meeting. And that's all I got. Superintendent's report. Dr. Warren.
Team, couple of 3 things from me. We need to start thinking about Team of 8 training. This is a required training, and this is also required that we get an outside facilitator for this. So a couple of things. We kind of need to talk about a time frame of when we would like to have our first Team of 8, with especially with Steve coming on as new. And really, we've only, as the other 7 of us, have only been through one, and our friend from Hazard Young Atia facilitated that. So I would like some ideas of who you would like to facilitate that, who you feel comfortable with in the past, or if you want us to try to think of someone new, and kind of when you'd like to have this done by. Maybe not specifically the dates yet until we talk to the facilitator, but what do you feel important to get this in by the beginning of the school year, by the in the summer? So just so think about that, and please provide me some feedback as to who you'd like to see facilitating, and kind of a time frame, please. Questions about any of that? Okay. TASB Convention Housing. We are in Dallas this year. If you will please talk to Jennifer ASAP. She needs to know the housing opens in 3 days, so she needs to be ready to jump on that as soon as she can. So if you would like a room for this year's conference, please get her. Please talk to her pretty quickly to be able to do that. And then please remember, I think I told you this last board meeting, our visioning consortium that we are hosting is coming up on July the 17th, Monday, and we are going to open that with a dinner at the OLC the night of Monday the 17th at 7 p.m. I would love for all of you to come. We will post it as a meeting just so that we can have all 8 of us can be there. So we'd love for you to be there and welcome the other leaders of the other districts that will be there. I think that'd be really neat, of course. And then the show off the OLC will be neat too. So that is Monday, July the 17th, 7 p.m. at the OLC. Mr. Schlu, that's all I have.